Very happy to welcome our guest, Corey Andrew.
Hello, how are you?
Great, thank you for joining us.
How are you after your ordeal? Let's go back and explain what happened to you and how this all got started.
Yes.
You're sitting there in the quiet of your own home, and you get an email from a military recruiter.
Well, wait, we got to back up a little. Corey put his resume on careerbuilders.com.
That is correct. As a writer, I always have my resume up on one of the career builder sites, such as HotJobs or Monster.com. And Career Builders was one that I had not actually utilized before. So I thought, well, I've heard a little bit about it. Let me put my resume up there and see what happens and see if it's any different than the responses I've gotten from other sites.
And you did get a response.
I did. So I have to say I definitely got something quite different. And so they came through with that.
Well, you simply got an email from a military recruiter from, I believe, Fort Knox, Texas?
Well, I haven't really been notified as to where she was stationed. I know that when all this broke, she was in Mexico on vacation, which I thought was very interesting because she had no idea this was happening.
Well, I understand she's no longer working in recruiting, but she sent you an email saying, I'm a military recruiter.
Yes.
We have all these job opportunities. Of course, you have to sign up for the military.
Right, but it's also important to state as well that that wasn't the first solicitation. I had just been ignoring them, and I thought there was an interesting correlation between careerbuilders.com and the military because I had never been solicited like that before at any other site.
Right.
So all of a sudden they began to come in very frequently, and I finally just responded to one and said, well,
so how did you respond, and what did you say?
She basically laid out the job opportunities that were available and said all you have to do is enlist in the Army first. And my response back to her was, I hadn't really thought about a career in the Army, but what you've laid out does sound a little attractive. But the travel and the opportunities maybe in my field, if you say there's something to do with marketing, possibly. I don't know. She mentioned some things. I think she had keywords, possibly.
Marketing democracy to Iraq, for instance.
Right. I mean, you never know what umbrella that would kind of fall under. However, I said to her, and that's great, and because it's the year 2000, I'm assuming that it's okay, 2007, I'm assuming it's okay that I'm gay and can be in the Army. And I quite honestly don't know the definition of don't ask, don't tell. I mean,
you didn't know that you could not be open in serve openly in the military.
I really don't know. I didn't know.
Hide your orientation.
Exactly.
Yes, President Clinton passed that policy back in '93.
Absolutely. I mean, I know now, of course, but I didn't know what that really involved. I knew that it meant something to do with my sexuality being an issue for the military, but not that I couldn't. I just didn't know. So when I sent the email,
they're very big about saying you can serve. They just,
as long as we don't know about it.
Yes, exactly.
And I'm just not fond of that policy now that I know what it means. But at the time, I sent this email to her clearly as an enthusiastic potential recruit.
Right.
And her one-line response to you is, well, if you are gay, we don't take you. You are considered unqualified. Unqualified to serve in the military.
So then that's when
she didn't try to explain don't ask, don't tell to you.
No, exactly, which I really feel was the appropriate manner in which she should have handled it. I mean, this is an ambassador.
Well, of course, you've already told somebody in the military, though. It's too late.
Well, see, the thing with that is I understand now that looking back, I understand now that, of course, I potentially hindered my own admission into the military by stating that. Now I know how don't ask, don't
tell. But you did yourself a favor because you didn't have to go back in the closet.
Right, exactly. I've never really been.
But you were not being disingenuous. You were being very open and honest.
Right.
You said in your email, awesome, sounds great. The U.S. military has so many vacant positions and opportunities. I had no idea. I'm seriously considering contacting you. One thing, I'm not up on current politics, but since it's 2007, I'd imagine also that I'm now able to serve in the U.S. military as an openly gay man,
Correct.
right?
Yes.
And then she writes, well, if you are gay, we don't take you. You are considered unqualified. In caps.
Yeah, that's the most important thing. And I later on told her what that meant. You know, if you don't know about email etiquette, you are shouting. And I'm taking that as being hostile.
Well, the plot thickens.
Well, you then entered into this dialogue with her, and you said you were surprised at her response. Wow, unqualified to serve my country because I'm gay? And you went on to object to that.
And you said you love your country, and
then she just took off after you.
You are definitely unqualified. Now take your gay self someplace else. We do not tolerate gay people like you in any part of the military. On and on and on.
And I was still balancing being I was still balancing, holding on to my composure very well, I feel, until she began to go into what I felt was kind of a racial rant. I mean, we had a moment there where it got kind of strange because it went from sexuality to race.
Well, you identified yourself as African American.
Exactly.
And
because
then,
she had declared me un-American.
And she also said, take your resume off Career Builder because we pay for the free space there.
And that's a very interesting thing that I think in this whole story, that's an element that I really need people to grasp, because I didn't place my resume there at all for military work.
well, they don't identify it as a military
No,
site.
no, not at all. But she reveals in this, in her own words, there is some sort of connection between career builders and the military's ability to access resumes and obtain our information for recruitment efforts. And it's desperate, in my opinion.
Well, it's clear that the military supports this site so it can recruit, so it can attract people and then try to sell them on this business of we have all these job opportunities,
Right.
and all you have to do
Yeah,
is
the
sign
only
up for the
thing.
military.
kind of a bait and switch.
It was bait and switch. That's exactly what I described it
Right.
as.
But she did say you take your gay ass off someplace and go to some other country and badmouth the military.
Right.
And you went back at her.
Well,
and you went after her for her vocabulary, her poor spelling, and etc. And then she really lets you have it. She says, being gay is personally, I think being gay is disgusting and immoral. Well, that's only the position of the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff.
And why wouldn't she think that?
Listen, well, nothing
Why
wrong with
wouldn't she
that.
think that? Yeah, of course.
And then you do get into a racial argument. She asserts that she is more deeply rooted here because you are African and should go back to Africa. But she has, I don't know, she says her roots are Native American, and she has more rights here than you, and my roots have been here ever since before the Americas were discovered. You take your gay ass off I can't believe she said you take your gay ass off someplace and go to some other
And I did. I took
country.
it to the Service Members Defense League.
Yes, you.
So I took my gay ass somewhere.
Well, and here is the final thing she says. She says, you go back to Africa and do your gay voodoo, limbo, tango, and wongo